Okay, Jasmeen, what do you think?
Yeah, to add to that, like the interview I feel like is more important than the grades part of it, because a lot of people I feel like that are super smart and like probably know material do bad, like don't get a good grade because they're more stressed about like exams and stuff. Like I feel like I've had that so many times where I'm like, I know the material, but I might not get a good as good of a grade on the exam. So I feel like yeah, the interview, like you just get to talk and like you get to learn who the person is and get to know them for who they are instead of just their grades on a paper.
Beautifully said. Yeah, absolutely. And it also affects, we've talked about this in class too, neurodiverse individuals having to get grades and write standardized tests because that's not how individuals like that learn. And so, like you said, it's either someone who's really intelligent and maybe learns completely differently. So I think that's something that's really important because when you're learning, if you could like, it was ideal so you could structure how you were back in class. What would you sort of think the best approach to learning or to teaching for you guys would be? What could a professor do to make it like ideal?
I think I liked classes most when it was like kind of a mixture and like you knew what was going to happen that day, but it was going to be different than the last class so that you're not constantly doing like the same thing. Like I feel like when professors would just lecture and you never really get a chance to speak, like I would retain the information, but I would never get to repeat it or like comment on it. So I wouldn't get my opinion out, and then I would just be like holding it in.
Holding in there, yeah, and you're like, "I have so much to say." Absolutely. Yeah. So what do you think, Jasmine?
Yeah, I actually really like your classes. I feel like in those I feel like in those I was like you would talk quite a bit. Yeah, you would talk a lot. But but you would still give us the chance to like work together as a group. So like I feel like there were so many times where me and Ravneet and um there was a few people around us where we would get to like discuss and talk about things. So not only then did we get to talk about like the classwork, but we got to know those individuals as well. And a lot of the times they were doing like same degrees as us, which also kind of helped our learning, I feel like.
Love
So
that. I love that answer a lot. But yeah, absolutely. I think that's the variety thing. So I've talked about this too, but the idea that our brains thrive on novelty and newness. So every time we are introduced to something new, we get a release of dopamine. And then if we keep doing that same thing for a bit, it stops and just sort of levels out. So that is a brilliant idea for classes because if you keep introducing new ways of approaching the material, then yeah, you guys are going to keep being excited and so we can get you interested on a chemical level. But yeah, absolutely brilliant to that. I have so many questions. I was also wondering what you think about education, higher education being free. Do you like that idea? Do you think there could be problems with it?
I think that would make it more accessible for a lot of people who want to do it. And then I know I don't know what country exactly, but I know it's free somewhere.
Yes,
And
exactly.
and that like that really shows like who would actually want to go to school
Exactly.
rather than who can afford to go to school.
Yes, I love it. And yeah, and that's, I mean, that's one of the major things. I'm gonna let you talk, Jasmine. As you mentioned, I talk a lot. But yeah, that's one of the main issues is like what can be most transformative in society is education, right? We need to educate people, help them to grow as people and understand how connected and interdependent we are. And if people don't have access to higher education, how's that going to happen? So yeah, Jasmine, what do you think about the free, about being free?
okay, first, Brent, you don't talk like that much. Like we like you talking a lot, okay? You could cut this out, but yeah.
I'm gonna leave
Um, yeah, I think free education would be a really good idea because then people like that have to work during school and like pay for it themselves, it's less stressful for them because I feel like a lot of people, not me personally, but a lot of people are like overworking and also going to school and then they don't have time for like homework and stuff or really to retain the information. So I think having free education would be less stressful.